Right, so Meghan Markle just officially became 2025's most hated celebrity, beating out actual criminals and people with legitimate scandals. And honestly, the internet is absolutely losing its mind over this one. Welcome back to Royal Article, where we dissect the drama you didn't know you needed. And before we dive into this absolute chaos, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, because trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next in the royal soap opera. Now, let's get into it. So picture this. It's the final days of 2025. Meghan's probably sipping her oat milk latte and Montecito, scrolling through Instagram, maybe planning her next Netflix documentary, when bam, she gets hit with news that would make anyone choke on their avocado toast. She's number 1 on Ranker's most disliked celebrities list. Not top 5, not top 3, number 1. And here's the kicker. She beat Sean Diddy Combs, who's literally sitting in jail right now, and Jada Pinkett Smith, who somehow managed to make the top 3 as well. Let that sink in for a second. A woman who left the royal family to find peace and privacy is apparently more disliked than someone facing serious criminal charges. Make it make sense. Now, Ranker isn't just some random website pulling names out of a hat. This is crowdsourced voting, meaning real people, thousands of them, actively went online and said, yeah, Meghan Markle, she's the one I dislike the most. Not politicians embroiled in scandals, not tech billionaires making questionable decisions, not even reality TV stars who built careers on manufactured drama. Nope, the Duchess of Sussex takes the crown, and not in the way she probably hoped when she married into the royal family back in 2018. The post that announced this absolute bombshell read like a press release from an alternate universe. It stated that Meghan's rise to number 1 follows several years of sustained public disapproval, particularly in the United States, after she and Prince Harry stepped back from royal duties. Now hold on a minute. Let's break that down. They stepped back from royal duties in 2020. That's 5 years of people apparently holding on to their feelings about a couple who just wanted out of a system that was clearly not working for them. 5 years! Some people don't remember what they had for breakfast yesterday, but the public's apparently got a PhD in holding grudges against Meghan Markle. And here's where it gets absolutely wild. The moment this list dropped, the internet exploded like a firework factory on bonfire night. Fans, critics, casual observers, everyone had an opinion, and they were not shy about sharing it. One bewildered commenter perfectly captured the collective confusion by asking, what did Bro do to be worse than Diddy? Which fair question, honestly. When you're outranking someone who's facing charges involving exploitation and abuse, you've got to wonder what exactly the criteria is here. Are we ranking based on actual harmful actions, or are we just really mad that someone had the audacity to leave a dysfunctional family situation and then talk about it? Another person jumped into the fray with what can only be described as a reality check, saying, no way, there are much worse celebrities doing much worse things than her. This is propaganda. And you know what? They might have a point. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, what exactly has Meghan done that warrants this level of sustained animosity? She gave interviews, she wrote a book, she started a podcast that didn't quite land, and she's been photographed looking wealthy in California. Meanwhile, there are celebrities with documented patterns of abusive behavior, legal troubles, and actual victims. But somehow, Meghan talking about her experiences with racism and mental health struggles within the royal institution is what really gets people fired up. Then there's the defenders, the ones who see this whole thing as exactly what it probably is, a reflection of something deeper and more uncomfortable. One commenter wrote, insanity and straight-up envy of Meghan Markle. We love you, Meghan. And that word, envy, is interesting, isn't it? Because let's be real here, Meghan married a prince, wore tiaras, lived in palaces, then walked away from all of it on her own terms, moved to sunny California, signed massive deals with Netflix and Spotify, and continues to live a life that most people can only dream about. Could it be that some of this hatred is actually just people being furious that she didn't play by the rules and somehow still came on top? But here's where we need to shift gears, because while the internet was busy debating whether Meghan deserves to be public enemy number one, there was actual family drama unfolding that adds another layer to this whole mess. Meghan sparked serious backlash recently when reports came out that she didn't visit her dad, Thomas Markle, in the hospital. Now, Thomas has been ill, and apparently Meghan sent members of her team to deliver a letter to him at his hospital bed, but that was it. No personal visit, no phone call that we know of, just a letter delivered by staff, and people absolutely pounced on that.
Thomas Markle, for those who need a refresher, is the man who gave interviews to tabloids before Meghan's wedding, staged paparazzi photos for cash, and generally aired the family's dirty laundry to anyone with a camera and a checkbook. The relationship between Meghan and her father has been fractured since before she even said "I do" to Harry, and they haven't spoken since 2018. That's 7 years of silence. 7 years during which Thomas has never met Prince Harry, never met his grandchildren, Archie or Lilibet, and has continued to give interviews about Meghan whenever someone asks. Now here's the part that really tugs at the heartstrings, or raises eyebrows depending on where you stand. Thomas has been forced to crowdfund to cover the costs of his medical operation, using GoFundMe to raise $6,000 for his treatment. $6,000! That's not a small amount for the average person, but for someone whose daughter reportedly has a multi-million-dollar Netflix deal, it's basically pocket change. And this is where public opinion gets really split, because on one hand you've got people saying she's his daughter, how can she not help him when he's sick, and on the other hand you've got people pointing out that family relationships are complicated, boundaries exist for reasons, and just because someone is blood-related doesn't mean you owe them unlimited chances after they've repeatedly betrayed your trust. The thing about the Meghan Markle situation is that it's become less about her as a person and more about what she represents to different groups of people. To some, she's a woman who exposed the racism and rigidity of an outdated institution and deserves respect for speaking her truth. To others, she's an opportunist who used the royal family as a stepping stone to fame and fortune, then burned bridges on her way out. And to yet another group, she's simply a lightning rod for misogyny and racism dressed up as legitimate criticism. The truth, as it usually is, probably lives somewhere in the messy middle of all of that. What's particularly fascinating about this most hated celebrities list is the timing. We're talking about the final days of 2025, which means Meghan's been dealing with this level of public scrutiny and disapproval for years now. You'd think at some point people would just, I don't know, move on, find a new target for their rage, get invested in literally anything else. But no. The fascination, or perhaps more accurately, the obsession with Meghan Markle continues to dominate headlines, social media feeds, and apparently crowdsourced voting platforms for who the public dislikes most. And let's talk about what this says about us as a society, shall we? Because this isn't really just about Meghan. This is about how we collectively decide who deserves redemption, who deserves criticism, and who deserves to be perpetually punished for perceived slights. When a woman ranks higher on a most hated list than people with documented patterns of harmful behavior, we have to ask ourselves what we're actually angry about. Are we angry about her actions, or are we angry that she didn't suffer in silence like we expected her to? Are we angry about her privilege, or are we angry that she leveraged that privilege in ways we didn't approve of? The reality is that Meghan Markle is never going to win with certain segments of the population, and honestly, at this point, she probably knows that. She could cure cancer tomorrow, and someone would criticize her for the color of the lab coat she wore while doing it.
She could reconcile with her father, and people would say she's only doing it for PR. She could stay completely silent, and people would accuse her of being aloof and uncaring. There's literally no version of events where everyone is satisfied, which is probably why she's just living her life in California, working on her project, raising her kids, and occasionally dropping content that reminds everyone she's still here and still living rent-free in people's minds. So where does this leave us? Well, Meghan Markle is 2025's most disliked celebrity, according to Public Vote, which tells us more about the public than it does about her. It tells us that we're still deeply invested in the narrative of the royal family and anyone who dares to step outside the carefully constructed fairy tale. It tells us that we have strong opinions about how women, particularly women of color, should behave when they're given platforms and privilege. And it tells us that we're really good at holding grudges, even when there are arguably much more deserving targets for our collective disapproval. Thanks so much for watching this absolute roller coaster of royal drama here on Royal Article. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and remember, the tea is always brewing in the